Ladies and gentlemen, today I want to challenge every single person in this room to rise above the ordinary, to stop accepting mediocrity, to break free from the patterns that keep you trapped and step into the top 1% of those who live fully, who live with purpose, who create extraordinary results in every area of life. The truth is, 99% of people live their lives on autopilot. They follow the path that's been laid out for them. They do what's easy. They settle for average. They let fear, doubt, and comfort dictate their destiny. But the 1%, the 1% are different. The 1% refuse to let the world define them. They refuse to be victims of circumstance. They don't wait for luck. They create it. Becoming the 1% starts with a decision, not tomorrow, not next week, today. A decision to take control of your mind, to master your emotions, to take massive action towards your dreams. Because results don't come from wishing or hoping. They come from relentless focus and committed action. The 1% don't dabble. They don't half commit, they go all in. You see, it's not about resources. It's not about who you know or where you're from. It's about the mindset you choose to adopt. The 1% understand that failure is not the enemy, it's a teacher. That pain is not a signal to stop, it's a signal to grow. That challenge is not an obstacle, it's an invitation to level up. Every setback, every struggle, every rejection is a stepping stone if you have the courage to learn and push forward. And here's the secret: the 1% leverage the power of consistency. They don't wait for inspiration. They create it. They don't rely on motivation. They rely on discipline. They understand that mastery, wealth, influence, and health are not gifts. They are earned through daily choices, through small actions taken consistently over time until excellence becomes a habit. But there's more. To become the 1%, you must embrace your uniqueness. Stop comparing yourself to others. Stop following the crowd. The 1% innovate. They create. They think differently. They see opportunities where others see obstacles. They understand that the world rewards those who dare to stand out, who dare to lead, who dare to change the game. And here's the most important truth: wealth, success, and power are not enough. To truly become the 1%, you must serve, you must contribute, you must lift others as you rise. The 1% understand that fulfillment, meaning, and impact are the ultimate markers of a life well lived. Money and influence are tools to create transformation in your life and in the lives of those around you. So I ask you today not to settle, not to compromise, not to accept average when extraordinary is within your reach. Decide right now to commit to your greatness. Decide to rise above fear, doubt, and excuses. Decide to take massive action and become part of the 1% who make a difference, who create legacy, who live fully and powerfully every single day. The choice is yours. You can stay where you are, or you can step forward, step up, and become unstoppable. The 1% are waiting, but they won't wait forever. Will you join them? Every journey to greatness begins with a single defining moment, and that moment is a decision. A decision to rise above the ordinary, a decision to refuse the limitations that society, circumstance, or even your own mind try to place on you. It is easy to drift through life, to follow the path that everyone else is on, to settle for what is comfortable, familiar, and predictable. But the 1% of people, the ones who create extraordinary lives, who break barriers and rewrite the rules, start with a choice that separates them from the masses. They decide, often in silence and without fanfare, that they will no longer be controlled by fear, excuses, or inertia. That choice, though it may seem simple, carries the weight of every action, every thought, and every result that will follow. To decide to rise above is not a one-time act. It is a commitment to never let mediocrity define you, to never accept less than what you are capable of achieving, and to demand more from yourself than anyone else could ever ask. Consider for a moment how easy it is to settle. The world is full of comfort traps disguised as safety. People tell themselves, "I'll start tomorrow," or "I'm not ready yet," or "it's too late for me." These are the lies that keep 99% of people living lives that are smaller than their potential. They convince themselves that dreams are luxuries, that extraordinary outcomes belong to other people, that their circumstances are permanent and unchangeable. And when those thoughts go unchallenged, they become habits. And those habits become the walls that confine a life that could have been limitless. But the 1% see the world differently. They see these same circumstances as challenges, opportunities, and catalysts for growth. They refuse to be passive participants in their own lives. They refuse to wait for luck, timing, or someone else's permission. They make the conscious decision to take ownership of everything that happens to them, knowing that in ownership lies power. Deciding to rise above means breaking free from the internal dialogue that keeps you small. It means recognizing the voice inside that whispers doubts and fears and choosing to speak back with courage, determination, and faith in your own potential. It means understanding that the world does not owe you comfort, validation, or approval, and that your success is not dependent on others agreeing with you or believing in you. The 1% understand that true freedom, true growth, and true fulfillment come from taking responsibility for your thoughts, your actions, and your results. And while it is easy to blame the world for your circumstances, the moment you shift from blame to accountability, you step into the space where real power lies. Every decision to rise above is also a rejection of fear. Fear is one of the greatest obstacles to greatness, yet it is also one of the most misunderstood. Fear is not a signal to stop. It is a signal that something important lies ahead. It is the body and mind's way of telling you that you are on the edge of growth, that you are about to step into a space where transformation is possible. The 1% do not deny fear. They embrace it, acknowledge it, and move forward anyway. They understand that courage is not the absence of fear, but the mastery of it. Every time you choose to act despite fear, every time you refuse to let hesitation dictate your choices, you reinforce a new pattern in your brain, a new level of confidence and resilience that compounds over time. Deciding to rise above also requires clarity. You must know who you are, what you value, and what you are willing to fight for. Without clarity, energy is wasted, actions are scattered, and progress becomes inconsistent. The 1% do not wander aimlessly. They set clear, specific, and compelling goals that serve as a roadmap for their lives. They visualize the life they want, the person they want to become, and the impact they want to have. They write it down, speak it aloud, and anchor it deeply within themselves so that when challenges arise, and they always do, they have a guiding vision that keeps them on course. Action is inseparable from decision. A decision without action is a wish. The 1% know that making the decision to rise above is only the beginning. It is the first domino in a series that will lead to monumental change, but it requires follow through. Every choice, no matter how small, either reinforces your commitment to greatness or erodes it. Waking up early, pushing through discomfort, seeking knowledge relentlessly, and persisting when others quit. All of these are the tangible expressions of a mind that has decided to rise above. The 1% do not wait for motivation to appear. They create momentum through consistent action, knowing that progress fuels confidence, and confidence fuels further progress. Deciding to rise above also means rejecting the voices of doubt, whether they come from outside or from within. People around you, even well-meaning friends and family, may unconsciously encourage you to stay safe, to conform, to play small. They may remind you of risks, potential failures, or the impossibility of your dreams. But the 1% understand that the only validation that matters is your own. They filter advice through discernment, not fear. They surround themselves with those who inspire, challenge, and elevate them. They seek mentors, coaches, and peers who have achieved what they aspire to achieve, and they absorb the lessons, mindset, and habits that propel them forward. The decision to rise above is not merely about achieving success. It is about transformation. It is a shift in identity from someone who is reactive to someone who is proactive, from someone who is limited by circumstances to someone who creates circumstances, from someone who waits for opportunity to someone who generates it. When you make this decision, you begin to see the world through a different lens. Challenges become fuel, obstacles become opportunities, and setbacks become setups for breakthroughs. Your life starts to move at a faster pace, your impact grows, and your potential expands in ways you never thought possible. And let us be clear, this decision is not easy. It requires persistence, resilience, and a willingness to confront discomfort head on. It means showing up consistently, even when the results are not immediate, even when the world questions your choices. It requires courage to break from the familiar patterns, to challenge beliefs that have held you back, and to commit to a path that few dare to walk. But every person who has ever achieved greatness has made this same decision. Every innovator, leader, and game changer has faced uncertainty, risk, and doubt, and has chosen to rise above. To decide to rise above is to reclaim your life. It is to refuse the narrative that says you are not enough, that the world is against you, or that your circumstances define your future. It is to take a stand for yourself, your vision, and your potential. And the incredible truth is that once you make this decision, the momentum it creates is unstoppable. Your actions, habits, and mindset will align with your choice, and opportunities, people, and circumstances will begin to respond to the energy you emit. This decision is the seed from which extraordinary results grow, the foundation on which a life of impact, freedom, and fulfillment is built. The second step to joining the 1% is mastering your mind and emotions. Because without control of your inner world, external success will always remain fleeting, inconsistent, or entirely out of reach. Your mind is the engine of your life, and your emotions are the fuel that powers that engine. Left unchecked, your thoughts and feelings can drive you off course, keeping you stuck in patterns of fear, doubt, frustration, and procrastination. But when you learn to harness them, to direct them consciously, you unlock a level of power that few ever experience. The 1% understand this principle: your life reflects the state of your mind, the quality of your focus, and the mastery of your emotional energy. Most people live at the mercy of their emotions. They react to circumstances, allowing moods and fleeting feelings to dictate their actions. They wake up stressed or tired, overwhelmed or anxious, and carry those states with them through the day. When challenges arise, they panic or shrink away. When opportunities present themselves, they hesitate or self-sabotage. Their success becomes a matter of chance because they are driven by impulses, not intention. But the 1% are different. They recognize that emotion is not something to suppress, avoid, or fear. It is a tool, a compass, and a signal. Emotions indicate where your energy is flowing, where your attention is focused, and where your actions will naturally follow. When you learn to regulate your emotions, you learn to direct your energy toward creating results, rather than being drained by circumstances. Mastering your mind begins with awareness. The first step is to observe your thoughts without judgment, to recognize the patterns that are shaping your beliefs and decisions. What stories are you telling yourself about what is possible? What fears, doubts, or limiting beliefs are quietly running your life in the background? Awareness alone is transformative because it allows you to separate from the autopilot reactions that keep you trapped. It allows you to see that you are not your thoughts, that thoughts are not commands, and that you have the power to choose which ones to engage with and which ones to release. Once you become aware of your mental patterns, the next step is to actively shape them. The 1% deliberately feed their minds with empowering beliefs, knowledge, and strategies. They reject toxic inputs, negative media, and the influence of people who diminish their energy. Instead, they cultivate thoughts that align with the life they are committed to creating. They rehearse success, visualize achievement, and anchor themselves to empowering convictions. They use repetition, affirmation, and consistent practice to rewire their minds so that confidence, resilience, and clarity become default states rather than rare experiences. This is not abstract theory. It is neuroscience in action. Your brain is constantly rewiring itself based on what you focus on, and by consciously directing that focus, you create mental and emotional patterns that support extraordinary results. Emotional mastery goes hand in hand with mental mastery. The 1% do not allow themselves to be controlled by reactive feelings of anger, fear, or frustration. They understand that emotions are contagious and that unchecked negativity can ripple outward, affecting every decision, interaction, and outcome. They practice emotional regulation by managing their physiology, breathing, and internal dialogue. They recognize that energy flows where attention goes, and that by consciously shifting focus, posture, and tone, they can change how they feel and how they act. When fear rises, they respond with courage. When doubt appears, they respond with confidence. When frustration emerges, they respond with clarity. These are not one-time acts. They are habits cultivated and reinforced over time until emotional intelligence becomes a default operating system. Part of mastering your mind and emotions is taking full responsibility for your state. The 1% understand that external circumstances do not dictate your destiny. Your interpretation of those circumstances does. Two people can experience the same setback, the same failure, or the same challenge, and one will collapse while the other will rise stronger. The difference is not luck, timing, or resources. It is the way the mind and heart respond. By choosing to focus on solutions, opportunities, and growth, by refusing to dwell on blame, resentment, or victimhood, you step into the space where action and results become possible. Another critical element is managing focus. Your mind can only attend to a limited number of thoughts at a time, and where focus goes, energy flows. Most people scatter their attention across countless distractions: emails, social media, gossip, worries about the future, regrets from the past, and as a result, their energy is diluted, their emotions are fragmented, and their results are minimal. The 1% deliberately choose what to focus on. They prioritize what truly matters, cut away noise, and invest their mental and emotional energy in high-leverage activities that move them toward their goals. This requires discipline, clarity, and an unwavering commitment to excellence in thought as well as action. Mastery of mind and emotions also requires learning to reframe experiences. Life is unpredictable, and setbacks are inevitable. But the 1% do not see failure as defeat. They see it as information, as feedback, and as a stepping stone to growth. Every obstacle contains a lesson, and every challenge carries an opportunity to elevate your mind and expand your emotional resilience. By reframing adversity, by shifting perspective from limitation to possibility, you convert moments of struggle into catalysts for transformation. The stronger your mental and emotional framework, the more effectively you can turn these moments into breakthroughs. Equally important is developing gratitude and emotional abundance. The 1% know that a mindset of scarcity, comparison, or envy drains energy and clouds judgment. Instead, they cultivate appreciation for what they have, for the progress they've made, and for the opportunities before them. Gratitude is not a passive feeling. It is an active practice that rewires the brain for positivity, clarity, and creativity. It allows you to approach life from a place of strength, resilience, and optimism even when the path is difficult, the stakes are high, and the outcome is uncertain. Finally, mastering your mind and emotions is about aligning your inner world with your outer actions. You cannot create extraordinary results while your inner world is chaotic, reactive, or self-limiting. The 1% bridge this gap by cultivating mental clarity, emotional resilience, and unwavering focus. They practice daily rituals that prime their mind, regulate their emotions, and prepare them for decisive action. They understand that excellence is not a destination. It is a state of being cultivated continuously, reinforced through habits, choices, and intentional living. Every thought they think, every emotion they feel, and every action they take is aligned with the life they are committed to creating. Taking massive, consistent action is what separates those who dream from those who achieve. Many people have ideas, goals, and aspirations, but they never step into the kind of relentless action required to transform possibility into reality. They wait for the perfect moment, for the ideal circumstances, or for the energy and motivation to magically appear. The 1% understand that waiting is the enemy of achievement. Action is the catalyst that turns vision into reality, and it is not occasional action, but massive, consistent action that creates extraordinary results. Action is the bridge between where you are and where you want to be, and without it, dreams remain just thoughts floating aimlessly in the mind. Massive action begins with clarity. You must know exactly what you want, why you want it, and what success looks like. Vague goals lead to scattered efforts, wasted energy, and frustration. The 1% define their objectives with precision, painting a mental picture so vivid that it pulls them forward. Even when obstacles arise, they break down their vision into actionable steps, understanding that even the largest goals can be conquered when approached methodically and relentlessly. Every action, no matter how small, is connected to the larger purpose, and this alignment creates momentum that grows exponentially over time. Consistency is equally critical. Most people take action sporadically, driven by bursts of motivation or fleeting inspiration, but motivation alone is unreliable. The 1% cultivate discipline, the ability to show up, do the work, and move forward even when they do not feel like it. They understand that mastery, wealth, influence, and fulfillment are built over time, not in moments of fleeting energy. Daily rituals, habits, and repeated effort compound, creating results that seem magical to those who only dabble. Consistency is not glamorous. It is repetitive, persistent, and disciplined. But it is the foundation on which all extraordinary outcomes are built. Massive action also requires courage. It is easy to talk about dreams, but taking bold steps demands confronting fear, uncertainty, and risk. The 1% act despite fear, knowing that fear is a sign that they are moving beyond the comfort zone, beyond the limits that once defined them. They take action that others avoid, push forward when others hesitate, and embrace challenges that scare most people away. Every bold step builds confidence, reinforces capability, and expands the realm of what is possible. The cumulative effect of courageous, massive action is unstoppable momentum that propels them forward even when circumstances are challenging. Another critical aspect of action is speed. The 1% understand the importance of moving quickly, making decisions, and adjusting as needed. Action creates clarity, and clarity generates momentum. The faster you take action, the faster you learn, adapt, and improve. Waiting for perfection is a trap. Opportunities are fleeting, and those who hesitate are often left behind. Action is a form of feedback. It provides the real-world data necessary to refine strategy, correct course, and accelerate progress. Every misstep is not failure. It is information, a chance to recalibrate and advance with more intelligence and precision. Taking massive action also means going beyond effort to embrace intensity. It is not enough to simply try. You must commit fully, immerse yourself, and push beyond the limits that feel comfortable. Average effort produces average results. The 1% understand that extraordinary outcomes demand extraordinary energy, focus, and persistence. They bring intensity to every task, applying themselves with full presence and relentless determination. This intensity, sustained over time, multiplies results far beyond what could be achieved with casual effort. Accountability is a key driver of consistent action. The 1% do not operate in isolation or excuse their failures. They hold themselves accountable for their results, measure progress rigorously, and adjust actions based on feedback. They understand that responsibility is empowering, not burdensome, and that the ability to respond decisively to results, positive or negative, is what separates achievers from dreamers. They seek mentors, partners, and environments that support their commitment, creating systems of accountability that reinforce discipline and momentum. Persistence is equally essential. Massive action without persistence is like a spark without fuel. The 1% understand that obstacles, setbacks, and failures are inevitable, but they refuse to let them define the outcome. They persist when others quit, push through when resistance arises, and maintain effort when results are not immediate. This relentless perseverance compounds over time, transforming effort into mastery, challenges into growth, and setbacks into setups for breakthrough. The 1% do not view failure as a stopping point. They see it as part of the journey, a natural consequence of action taken with courage and commitment. Action also requires focus. It is easy to be busy without being productive, to exert energy without generating results. The 1% prioritize high leverage activities, focusing on the actions that yield the greatest impact. They eliminate distractions, minimize low-value tasks, and concentrate energy where it produces the most meaningful outcomes. Focused massive action multiplies effectiveness, creating momentum and results that feel exponential compared to the effort invested. It is not just about doing more, it is about doing the right things consistently, with intensity, and without compromise. The mindset of action is equally vital. Taking massive, consistent action is not a mechanical process. It requires belief, vision, and an unwavering commitment to possibility. The 1% align their actions with their identity, understanding that who they become in the process is as important as what they achieve. They cultivate a mindset that sees opportunity in every challenge, progress in every struggle, and lessons in every setback. This mindset fuels the energy, courage, and persistence necessary to sustain massive action over time, even when the path is difficult and the results are not immediate. Finally, taking massive, consistent action is not just about personal gain, it is about creating impact. The 1% understand that their efforts have the power to influence, inspire, and elevate others. Every action is amplified when aligned with a higher purpose, when it contributes not only to personal success, but to the lives of those around them. Massive action creates ripples, multiplying results far beyond what could be achieved alone. It becomes a force that reshapes circumstances, changes environments, and inspires others to rise with them. Action is the engine of transformation, and when applied with consistency, focus, intensity, and purpose, it becomes unstoppable. Embracing failure and challenges is one of the defining traits of the 1%. Most people fear failure. They avoid risk, they seek comfort, and they define themselves by what they can control. They see challenges as threats, setbacks as signals to quit, and mistakes as reflections of personal inadequacy. This mindset keeps them trapped in mediocrity, constantly circling within the boundaries of what feels safe. But the 1% see life differently. They understand that failure and challenges are not obstacles to be avoided, but opportunities to be leveraged. They recognize that every setback contains information, every struggle contains growth, and every obstacle carries a lesson that, when embraced, accelerates progress, strengthens character, and builds resilience. The first step to embracing failure is changing your perception of it. Failure is not a verdict, it is feedback. It is not a judgment on your worth. It is a signal about strategy, approach, or timing. The 1% understand that mistakes are inevitable when you are reaching beyond the comfort zone, pushing boundaries, and attempting things that most people won't even try. Each failure provides valuable data, a chance to adjust, recalibrate, and improve. Rather than being paralyzed by fear, they view failure as an essential teacher, a mirror reflecting where growth and adaptation are required. Challenges, too, are reframed by the 1%. Life does not come without difficulty, and every meaningful goal involves obstacles. Most people see challenges as burdens to endure, complaints to voice, or threats to avoid. The 1% see them as invitations to develop strength, creativity, and courage. They understand that the human spirit grows not in comfort, but under pressure. The difficulties they face become catalysts, pushing them to innovate, adapt, and discover reserves of resourcefulness that would have remained dormant otherwise. Challenges are not interruptions. They are accelerators, opportunities to rise above what seemed impossible yesterday. A critical component of embracing failure and challenges is resilience. The 1% develop a mindset that allows them to recover quickly, adapt, and continue moving forward. They recognize that setbacks are temporary, that circumstances are fluid, and that the outcome is determined not by what happens, but by how they respond. Resilience is cultivated through experience, reflection, and intentional practice. Every time a challenge is faced with courage, every time a failure is reframed as feedback, the mind grows stronger, the heart grows bolder, and the ability to persevere expands. This resilience becomes a compounding advantage, giving the 1% the power to face uncertainty with confidence, to recover from setbacks faster than others, and to persist when the majority would quit. Embracing failure also requires detachment from ego. The 1% understand that pride, shame, and fear of judgment can paralyze action. They separate identity from outcome, recognizing that mistakes do not diminish their value or worth. By focusing on learning rather than defending themselves, they extract maximum insight from every experience. They ask questions like, what can I learn from this? Or how can I improve next time, rather than, oh, is to blame, or why me? This shift in perspective transforms failure from an endpoint into a stepping stone, from a source of shame into a source of power. Another key aspect is persistence through discomfort. Challenges are uncomfortable by nature. They demand effort, patience, and endurance. The 1% do not wait for ease or certainty. They embrace the discomfort, knowing that it is a necessary component of growth. They use discomfort as a signal that they are stretching, that they are moving beyond the boundaries of previous limitations, and that transformation is underway. The willingness to endure temporary struggle for long-term gain distinguishes those who achieve extraordinary results from those who settle for mediocrity. Reflection and learning are essential parts of this process. The 1% do not just experience failure, they analyze it. They identify patterns, root causes, and opportunities for improvement. They ask themselves hard questions, seek honest feedback, and take corrective action. Every challenge becomes a laboratory for growth, and every failure becomes a blueprint for future success. By committing to continuous learning, they convert each setback into a springboard, accelerating progress and expanding their capacity to overcome even greater obstacles in the future. Embracing failure and challenges also involves courage. Courage is not the absence of fear, it is action in the presence of fear. The 1% take risks that others avoid, attempt tasks that seem daunting, and step into uncertainty with confidence. They understand that greatness is never achieved within the comfort zone, and that bold action in the face of adversity is what separates extraordinary results from ordinary lives. Every challenge faced with courage strengthens belief in oneself, reinforces the value of persistence, and expands the realm of what is possible. Accountability plays a role in mastering challenges as well. The 1% take responsibility for both their successes and their failures. They do not blame circumstances, other people, or luck. They recognize that how they respond determines the outcome. This accountability fuels growth, creates empowerment, and ensures that lessons from failure are internalized and applied. By owning their experiences fully, they transform challenges from sources of frustration into engines of personal and professional development. The ability to embrace challenges also strengthens problem-solving skills. The 1% develop the capacity to think creatively under pressure, to innovate when resources are limited, and to adapt when plans fall apart. Challenges push the mind to expand, to consider possibilities that would not have arisen in comfort or ease. By consistently confronting obstacles, they cultivate an agility of thought, a resourcefulness, and a level of strategic thinking that allows them to thrive in complex, dynamic environments. Finally, embracing failure and challenges creates confidence. Confidence is not built in the absence of struggle. It is forged in the fires of adversity, tempered through experience, and strengthened by each success that follows a setback. The 1% gain a deep, unshakable belief in their ability to overcome whatever life throws at them. This confidence becomes a self-reinforcing cycle. The more challenges they face, the more they learn, the more resilient they become, and the greater the impact they are capable of creating. Failure is no longer feared. It is a trusted companion on the path to mastery, a teacher that reveals strength, potential, and untapped power. The final step to becoming the 1% is to lead, serve, and create impact. True success is not measured solely by wealth, fame, or personal achievement. It is measured by the difference you make in the world, by the lives you touch, and by the legacy you leave behind. The 1% understand that greatness is amplified when it extends beyond themselves. Leadership is not a title or a position. It is a responsibility to influence, inspire, and elevate others. Serving is not an obligation. It is an opportunity to contribute, to give back, and to create meaningful change. Impact is not accidental. It is intentional, strategic, and driven by a higher purpose. Those who reach the top realize that personal success is hollow unless it is accompanied by a contribution that resonates, multiplies, and endures. Leadership begins with self-mastery. You cannot lead others effectively if you cannot lead yourself. The 1% understand that leadership starts internally with integrity, vision, courage, and consistency. It requires making decisions that align with your values, setting standards for yourself that inspire others, and modeling the behavior you wish to see in the world. When you lead yourself first, when your actions are congruent with your words, you create trust, credibility, and influence. Leadership is not about commanding, it is about creating an environment where others feel empowered, motivated, and supported to reach their full potential. Serving others is the natural extension of leadership. The 1% understand that true fulfillment and influence come not from taking but from giving. They use their skills, resources, knowledge, and experiences to lift others, to mentor, to guide, and to provide opportunities that would not exist otherwise. Service is not about recognition or reward. It is about impact. By focusing on how they can contribute, they create a ripple effect that elevates communities, organizations, and even entire industries. The act of serving strengthens relationships, builds networks, and fosters a sense of purpose that fuels further success. When you serve, you expand your influence exponentially because the energy you invest in others returns in ways that are far greater than what you could achieve alone. Creating impact requires vision. The 1% do not merely react to circumstances, they shape them. They see possibilities where others see obstacles, opportunities where others see scarcity, and solutions where others see problems. They define a clear purpose for their efforts, a mission that drives every action and decision. Impactful individuals align their goals with this vision, ensuring that every effort contributes to a larger objective, a legacy, or a transformation that transcends personal gain. Vision transforms ordinary work into extraordinary influence because it provides direction, clarity, and meaning. The ability to create impact is enhanced by emotional intelligence. Influence is not imposed, it is inspired. The 1% cultivate empathy, understanding, and connection. They listen deeply, communicate authentically, and respond to the needs of others with insight and compassion. By understanding the motivations, challenges, and desires of those around them, they are able to guide, mentor, and inspire in a way that produces lasting change. Emotional intelligence allows them to navigate complex dynamics, resolve conflict, and foster collaboration, ensuring that their leadership is effective and their impact is sustainable. Leading and serving also require courage. It is easy to focus solely on personal gain, to prioritize safety, or to avoid responsibility. The 1% take bold stands, make difficult decisions, and act with integrity even when it is inconvenient or risky. They step into uncertainty, embrace accountability, and challenge the status quo when necessary. Courageous leadership inspires others to follow, to take action themselves, and to expand their own capacity for achievement. Every bold choice made in alignment with purpose reinforces credibility, influence, and the potential for meaningful impact. Mentorship is a key element of creating impact. The 1% understand that knowledge, experience, and wisdom are most valuable when shared. They invest in guiding others, teaching principles of success, and helping others navigate challenges they have already overcome. By lifting others, they multiply their influence, create networks of capable leaders, and ensure that their contributions extend far beyond what they could accomplish alone. Mentorship transforms individual success into collective achievement, creating a legacy that endures long after personal accomplishments are complete. Service and impact are also about contribution on a larger scale. The 1% leverage their resources, time, and energy to address systemic challenges, to innovate solutions, and to improve the world around them. They understand that small, consistent contributions can evolve into large-scale transformation when applied strategically. Every act of service, no matter how modest, compounds over time, influencing more lives, shaping communities, and creating generational effects. The cumulative impact of purposeful action is extraordinary, and the 1% recognize that their responsibility is to maximize the positive effects of their influence wherever possible. Purpose-driven leadership also fosters resilience. When you lead with meaning, when you serve with intention, and when you focus on creating impact, challenges and failures become opportunities rather than obstacles. The 1% are motivated not just by personal gain, but by the desire to contribute and transform. This higher purpose sustains them through adversity, fuels persistence, and strengthens commitment. When actions are aligned with a greater mission, obstacles are reframed as tests, setbacks as lessons, and resistance as a call to innovate and grow. Purpose transforms effort into enduring impact. Collaboration amplifies impact as well. The 1% understand that true influence is rarely achieved in isolation. They seek partnerships, cultivate networks, and engage communities to multiply results. By aligning with others who share values, vision, and commitment, they create synergies that magnify their efforts. Collaboration allows for shared learning, collective problem solving, and greater reach, ensuring that their actions resonate more widely and produce a deeper, more lasting effect. Finally, leading, serving, and creating impact is about leaving a legacy. The 1% are driven by the question, how will my life, actions, and influence matter beyond my immediate existence? They recognize that true success is measured not by what they accumulate, but by what they give, the lives they improve, and the change they inspire. Every decision, every action, every contribution is aligned with the desire to leave a mark that endures, to elevate others, and to create a world that is better because they were here. This focus on legacy transforms ordinary effort into extraordinary achievement, ensuring that personal greatness is inseparable from the positive change created in the world